Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Here we'll be looking at the best captaincy candidates for game week 17. Yes, it's game week 17 already. My name is Joe and joining me to look at the top options for the armband is David. David, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, especially on the captaincy front because Jamie Vardy rewarded me once again in game week 16. 2 goals against Villa. Could have been even more. That's exactly what you want. Double figure haul to take you forward to another game week in which he looks a good option.
He does indeed. So yeah, last week we both went for Jamie Vardy and obviously great success there. He's unstoppable. So it's more of a case of not will he score, how many will he score, which is exactly what, exactly what you want from a captaincy. But he arguably faces a bit of competition this week. So what do we think? I mean, let's start off with Jamie Vardy. What do we think? Home to Norwich, looks no-brainer to captain him, surely. What do we think?
Yeah, I mean, he does look absolutely incredible as an individual asset. I like to see if I compare a form and fixture, and the form for him is just ridiculous. I mean, most people will probably trot out the usual, how many goals he's got. I think it's 13 since game week 7. It's just ridiculous. But in terms of some underlying statistics, which is what we like to specialize in and work out whether or not it's sustainable, it absolutely looks like it is still sustainable. Because in the last 4 matches, he was second for shots on target going into game week 16 in the whole division for the last 4 matches. After game week 16, he's finally top of that stat as well. So he's had 16 shots in the box. That's 3 more than Jimenez on 13, who's the second best. He's top for big chances still, as he was last week. He's had 10 big chances in the last 4 matches. And second place for that has had half as many. So Rashford and Wood have both had 5 each. Vardy's had 10.
Okay.
And then shots on target is 9. He's also top for that as well. It's 2 more than the second best 2 options in their last 4 matches, which is Salah and Mikel Antonio at West Ham. So he's just dominating every stat. I mean, he's no longer the stat buster. He just dominates all the stats. It's just ridiculous. And then when you look at expected goal as well, that's very good. So last 4 matches, minutes per expected goal involvement is every 58.8. Now, he has had penalties within that, but third place for that is Lucas Moura on 98.3. Iheanacho is second, actually, on that, 64.8. But he's still miles ahead of everyone else. Even if you take the penalties out, it doesn't matter. And the fact that he's on the penalties is good anyway. So as an individual, it looks just... He is exactly the perfect captain you want every week, because how's it going to stop? If he's shooting all the time, he's not even the Jamie Vardy of old. He's a new transformed Jamie Vardy who arguably better than the one that won the Premier League.
And it all depends on where you are in the rankings as well with Vardy captaincy. So, for example, I'm around the 100k mark, and I had a little look at the live FPL website over the weekend at exactly how much Jamie Vardy was worth, and sort of compared it to when I haven't captained him and he's inevitably scored. Basically, a goal for me is worth about 5,000 to 10,000 ranking places. So when I captain him, if I don't captain him, I'm looking at 10 to 20,000 drop when he hauls. So this is the thing. It's no good just owning him now. And I think his effective ownership was something like 180%. So already you can see it's like he's so well owned, especially amongst the top 10,000, the most engaged managers. You would hope they are. Anyway, I'm going to put a very small caveat. It's so tiny. I'm just going to mention it. We spoke on last week's Scoutcast about whipping boys, and we looked at Norwich are actually far worse at home defensively than they are on the road. So they have 2 clean sheets out of the last 4 road trips and have conceded just 4, with only Leicester and Liverpool conceding fewer. But it's Jamie Vardy. He scores against everyone. They've conceded 7 big chances over that time. So they're sort of mid-table for conceding away, and with 6 expected goals over the last 4 away matches, they've possibly been lucky not to concede more. And as we said, it's Jamie Vardy. He's gunning for his own record of scoring in consecutive matches. He's a great option, but there are others. We're going to move on. We're going to move on to a few others, and I think really, I don't know about you, but I think the main competition must come from Liverpool. Playing Watford, Mane and Salah in great form when they're not being rotated. Better than Vardy, or just simply great options? What do we think about Liverpool?
Yeah, it's really tough because, I was looking at the Norwich defensive stats as well, and they're a lot better than I would like, which is annoying. I mean, you've obviously talked about away from home, even just across the last 4, including the home matches, they've conceded 5 big chances, which and only Leicester, Spurs, and Man City have conceded fewer than that. Obviously, of course, we kind of look at Vardy and think he can just punch through that, no problem. The teams that Norwich have played haven't been great. But at the same time, Watford are increasingly dropping to the bottom of the pack for some of these defensive stats. So over that same period, last 4 matches, they've conceded 11 big chances. Only 3 teams have conceded more than that. And then when you look at the opposition that Watford have played, they're hardly ones that you would consider particularly well. I mean, other than Leicester. So they played Leicester game week 15. Outside of that, Palace, Southampton and Burnley, not exactly teams that blow over teams away, and they're still at this sort of area of the table. And we know that whenever Watford go to Anfield, they tend to get completely smashed to pieces. So they might have a new manager bounce from Nigel Pearson, but with the best respect, I don't really think that he's going to necessarily be able to have that away at Anfield, which just right now is, I can't remember the last time they lost there. Was it sometime in early 2018 or something? So it's going to be a difficult game. I think they'll score. I think Salah and Mane will score because they've got stats that are decent enough. So Salah, for example, in his last 4, 12 shots in the box, which is the second best in the league, so just behind Vardy. 7 shots on target as well, 2 behind Vardy as well. So he's second best for those 2 stats. Big chances don't come his way as often as we'd like, so just 3 in his last 4, whereas Mane has 4. And then so Mane's, so this is we're back to the age-old debate, Salah versus Mane, is that Mane does shoot considerably less often. So he's had just 7 shots in the box in his last 4 appearances, and when you consider that's basically 9 fewer than Vardy. He's had 4 big chances, which is 6 fewer than Vardy. 5 shots on target, which is 4 fewer than Vardy, and all of those stats are fewer than Salah as well, other than the big chances. I think they'll score, but it's just whether or not they can explode, and maybe they can because Watford's defence hasn't been great. But it's whether or not they're better than Vardy is a really difficult question to answer, because I think really what it comes down to is that Vardy is the form pick and Liverpool is the fixture pick. And then we've always seen this whenever we discuss on this video how you pick your captain. Some people prefer the form, some people prefer fixture. Often it comes down to personal preference or potentially where you are in the world. Mane and Salah, I would expect to be the slight differentials, maybe not differentials, but the second and third option, because Vardy looks top of the polls. So maybe you go with them to make up some ground. But as we always say, if you go with them, you kind of, because Vardy's effective ownership is so high, you're kind of banking on him not scoring against Norwich. And even though they've made some improvements recently, they've still conceded the second most goals in the Premier League. So it's quite difficult to bet against Vardy right now.
Yeah, I actually think Vardy's got the better fixture as well. I know Watford they're weaker than a kitten, and they just hired a manager in that it's the sort of manager you get rid of when you want to improve. But looks like they're planning for the Championship already. Apologies there, Watford fans. But Watford have conceded 5 in the last 4 away matches, and arguably could have conceded perhaps 1 more. They've conceded 33 in the shots in the box over the last 4 road trips, whereas Norwich have conceded 41. So whilst Norwich are worse at home, still Norwich's away form is still worse than Watford's. So that still points to Vardy being the one for me. And so I'm a fixtures guy usually, so I look at those kind of stats, but I'm also a realist. I ain't betting against Jamie Vardy not scoring. That's just not going to happen. There's some other candidates as we whiz through the armbandees, and I think Manchester United, they take on Everton at home. So could this be yet another haul for Marcus Rashford, or have Everton turned the corner with Big Dunk at the helm? So what do we think?
Yeah, it's tricky again to really. So I mean, Rashford is quite an easy one to actually assess on his individual basis, but the fixture is hard to really know what to expect, because I don't think anyone really expected Everton to do what they did against Chelsea. They completely changed the way they were playing. I mean, they played 4-2-3-1 mostly under Silva. It largely wasn't working because they just couldn't seem to score as many as they should be. Maybe that's because the striker was getting isolated. That's clearly what Duncan Ferguson thought, because he played, in the words of Mike Bassett, and I'll try not to use any French, we're going to play 4-4-2. And so by putting Richarlison alongside Calvert-Lewin, it made both of those players more dangerous because they could support each other. And that put Everton on top of the game. And then, even though they've had some defensive issues of late, the fact that they were able to hold possession better higher up the pitch kind of protected their defence a bit more. So There's every possibility that can happen against Man United because it's another big game. Duncan Ferguson's probably going to relish that. The question, I suppose, there's a lot of unknowns, isn't there? Because is Duncan Ferguson going to get the job full time? Possibly. Is it going to be Carlo Ancelotti? Nobody knows. So by the time the game comes around, things could be completely different. But Rashford himself, I think, if Everton, give him chances, he's going to score. So his stats have been great for a long time, and I'm really sort of gutted that I don't have him. So over the last 4 matches, he's had 10 shots in the box, which is joint fourth. When you're considering that one of those games was against Man City, that's quite impressive. Big chances he's had in that time is 5. So we were talking earlier that Vardy has had double of that particular amount, but Rashford is still second in the whole league for that particular statistic. And then shots on target also doing quite nicely as well. 6 of his 10 shots in the box have been on target. Only Salah and Vardy and Antonio kind of a bit of an outlier, to be honest, ahead of him for that. So it's certainly showing form to suggest he could score. I don't really want to reel out too many Everton defensive stats because if we're talking about the last 4 matches, only one of those had Duncan Ferguson. So I suppose bottom line is too many unknowns for me, but at the same time, Rashford is a great option. And if anyone has Rashford right now, then I'm very jealous.
Yeah, well, that's me. I've got him. So jealous away. Everton looked better under Big Dunk, obviously, but that was at home. And I thought the defence was still suspect, and they conceded 11 shots in the box during that match as well. So they're not they're there for the taking. The other thing is, a lot of people are speculating, usually Rashford non-owners, that Rashford actually performed better against the better teams because they can use their counter-attack. But the teams that sit deep, where you need that creativity, because they're lacking the likes of Pogba, and they're lacking that creativity, they're going to be harder to break down. Looking at the stats over the season, Rashford has scored against all sorts, so I'm not quite sure.
It's a complete myth that he's great against anyone.
It's a complete myth that. But if you follow that myth, if you like myths and legends, well then if Everton are playing 2 up top and they're focusing more on that structure, then there's less in midfield there to crowd it, and of course, yes, their defence will help because you would think they would have more attacking threat, but against a team like Manchester United with a striker in form like Marcus Rashford, that plays into hands. But as you said, it's all a myth. It doesn't matter who he plays; he's just going to score against anyone. Well, that's the hope anyway. Well, that's my hope. I usually say at this stage, what about Harry Kane, for giggles? But he happens to have actually scored and done well last week. But of course, there's Son, there's Ali in the mix, but they play against Wolves. So what do we think about Spurs' assets for the captaincy? Let's bear in mind Vardy's still the best. But what do we think about? Are they still good options?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Vardy I think is still the best, and I'm still a little bit undecided between Vardy and Mane, but I certainly am edging towards Vardy. I actually have Ali and Son, so I clearly have a lot of faith in this new regime under Mourinho. I mean, so let's forget that Vardy's great this week, and we'll just sort of talk about these guys on their own merit. I think Son and Ali, for me, I would prefer over Kane. Son, I think, actually is the best of the 3. Now, a lot of people have been looking to Ali because he's scored in every game, I think it was, until the most recent one, but he got 2 assists. So Ali has registered something in every game under Mourinho. Yeah. Son has had 1 blank. But in terms of kind of sustainability and moving forward, I really like what Son offers because he has a spread of potential for points. He looks equally likely to get goals and assists, which for a midfielder is great, especially if you're thinking about captaining them. Because last 4 matches, 7 shots in the box, 2 of them have been chances, 4 of them have been on target. Now that's not amazing. It's like it's all right, it'll do. But at the same time, he's combining that with 11 chances created and 6 big chances created, which is mad. That is such a huge number of big chances. Yeah. When you consider who else is creating big chances right now, he's top of the league for big chances created. Then it's Jimenez on 5, De Bruyne on 3. So he's created double the amount of big chances that De Bruyne has, basically since Mourinho turned up. And combining that with goal threat, you put those 2 together, and it's amazing.
It's a lethal combination.
It's exactly. I mean, it's the kind of thing we were looking at for maybe Salah when he was in his heyday, because I do think that's slightly past now, unfortunately. It's the kind of thing that we saw from maybe Hazard last year. These premium midfield options, you really want them to do both, and he looks very capable of doing both. Ali also looks nice too. He's sort of shooting a little bit more often in terms of quality and on target, so three big chances, 6 on target, slightly more than Son. Some creativity as well, so 7 chances created and 2 of them big, but it's still a third of what Son's offering. I think they both look good, which is why I own them both. In terms of captaincy, it's quite tough, especially with it being Wolves, although Wolves being without Bolly and Bennett being out of form. Saiss, Dendoncker and Cody I don't think is as a reliable back three as what they had last year. Conceded 2 goals away at Brighton as well, so I think they can concede. Kane is a weird one because he wasn't really doing much in the box, and he still didn't really do much in the box against Burnley, but he scored twice. I don't know how he managed it.
Well, one from range,
2 fantastic goals.
And both fantastic goals. One from range. It was the second goal that was like, oh, hello. That's quite good. The howitzer from range.
But we haven't seen enough of it yet, have we?
We haven't seen enough of that yet. My turn to be jealous of you having Ali and Son. I just have Ali. I covet your Son. And I do agree. He's amazing because he's got that combination of goals and assists. Well, I've had a look at some very broadly similar stats, but I've looked at the Mourinho era for Ali, Kane and Son, and Ali's really impressive because he's got those 8 goal attempts but 7 inside the box, so he's not bothering shooting from range or anything. He's only doing that, so as a result 6 of those are on target, most on target. Son, as you said, he's got that creativity, he's top for that chances created stats. 6 goal attempts, 6 inside the box, only 2 on target, but nevertheless he's there, he's where you want to be. It's Harry Kane has got this, I don't know what, I still don't know what he is, but 11 goal attempts, huge. That looks great. That's what you want from Harry Kane. But only 4 inside the box. That's not what you want from Harry Kane. And only 3 on target. So for looking at value, Ali the value pick, Son the best bet, Harry Kane. He can score a hat-trick against anyone or he can blank against anyone. So in terms of, finally, after all of that, in terms of the captaincy, if I was going to be putting the captaincy on a Spurs player, I agree with you, Son is the man. Has to be. There's some teams on the ascendancy, players on the ascendancy, like Spurs assets, but there's also some players that we're sort of overlooking because it's a sort of slow demise. And where else? Like Man City against a managerless Arsenal, so you'd think that this is a good fixture for them. But they've been looking shaky at times, Man City, and indeed Arsenal. But yeah, Man City again being in the derby. What do we think? Worth a captaincy shout? Anyone? Sterling, KDB, Jesus?
Yeah, I mean, if you're still holding on to them, then I would consider it. I mean, if we're sort of talking about strategy, then certainly they're not going to be. I feel like they're not going to get too highly considered. The captaincy popularity tends to naturally follow ownership, and Man City assets are very much on the decline in terms of ownership, so they're going to get overlooked just based on that, even if they've got a good fixture coming up, because I think this is a good fixture because Arsenal's defence is terrible, and also losing the derby at home, I think that was embarrassing really for Guardiola, considering the pressure that Solskjaer has been under. So then I think, there's every chance that Man City can use, because we've seen it before when they lose games and it's a bit sort of, Guardiola feels a bit embarrassed by it. The next game, it's like you don't want to be the team that plays them next. And if you've got a team like Arsenal, which I think they've still conceded the most shots of any team this year, regardless of location, just anywhere, then there's every chance they can do something. Sterling, I wouldn't be so keen on because I think, dare I say, when it's the Premier League, he's possibly a bit of a confidence player. Like he's had a fair number of shots in the box over the last few game weeks, and just hardly any of them were on target. He kind of came out and said, didn't he, ahead of the derby, I've not scored against United for City, so I'm going to shoot more, and it didn't really materialise. Wan-Bissaka had him on lockdown. Arsenal aren't going to be able to offer someone as good as Wan-Bissaka at right back, but still, I would just have my concerns. And then, De Bruyne, so he's still creating plenty of chances, but if Jesus and Sterling aren't as confident in front of goal as we'd like him to be, then it's tough to really go with him there. I wouldn't really exactly expect De Bruyne to be scoring more goals from range again. He scored those 2 goals in the last 3 games, isn't it? And you can't bank on that happening again because that's just not how it works. Really, people don't score those types of goals on a regular basis, not even Neves. So it's tough because I think the fixture's decent, but I just, in terms of value, I have my doubts about all 3 of the players you mentioned. So then. And then, sorry to sound like a broken record, but just look at Vardy. If we're talking about captaincy, Vardy's no comparison.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's a trust issue, isn't it? I had the same thing with Kane. So, for example, I would trust Son with the captaincy, but I wouldn't trust Kane. And I don't trust any Man City assets at the moment. And I've already got rid of Sterling in my team, and I'm wondering about KDB now. But that's something for another day, and something we're going to discuss in the Scoutcast tonight. But yeah, I still think that I think they have merit because of Arsenal's form. So prior to their hosting of West Ham, prior to their game against West Ham last night, only Aston Villa had given up more shots over the last 4 home matches. So what I was looking at here, so Aston Villa, last 4 home matches, Aston Villa have conceded 79 goal attempts and Arsenal 75. So the next worst is Newcastle and Southampton after that. So only Villa are worse than that. So that's the sort of thing I'm looking at there. So that's the sort of form that Arsenal are in. So it makes me think, maybe, but we've been there, done that. I think the narrative about captaining a Man City asset is gone now because of Jamie Vardy. Okay, so there are other assets. There are other people. You don't want to captain Jamie Vardy. Chelsea assets, can they be trusted? Not sure. They're at home to a seemingly championship-bound Bournemouth side. What do we think of Chelsea assets for the armband?
Yeah, so with Chelsea, I think it's a similar dynamic to the Man City one in that they have a really good fixture, but it's just can they be trusted? And I don't know the answer to that. So the fixture's good because Bournemouth potentially going to be without Ake and Steve Cook, who I would say are their best 2 centre-backs. Although, I mean, centre-backs and Bournemouth don't really go together. I've never really seen a good defence there from Eddie Howe. But then again, that's just another good thing. Like if their defence is great anyway, and they're missing 2 key personnel and they're away from home, you fear the worst. If you're a Bournemouth fan, you feel quite happy if you own Pulisic or Abraham or Mount or a combination of all that lot. So, I mean, certainly I don't think I'm going to sell any of those players. Whether or not I captain them is another thing, because obviously in the last couple of matches they've had good fixtures and not delivered. Stats have dropped a bit as well. So, or rather, they haven't necessarily dropped, but they just show signs that are not too happy with. So Pulisic was just absolutely dominating about 4 weeks ago for shots on target, shots in the box. Not so much big chances, but still a decent number. But in the last 4 matches, 10 shots in the box, only 2 on target. So he's very much snatching everything. Possibly the fact that he scored 5 goals in 3 games went to his head, and maybe that's why he's shooting a bit more and then not getting the shots on target. So that's a bit annoying. Abraham obviously has continually been having questions over his fitness and his hip and stuff like that. His numbers look a little bit better. Still the same number of shots in the box, 10. Double the number of big chances with 4 and double the number of shots on target with 4. But still, those sorts of numbers don't really compare with the Liverpool lads, and they certainly don't compare with Vardy. So I can't say I would trust them with this fixture, but I wouldn't sell them either.
No, I know. Good to own, definitely good to keep. Jamie Vardy. There we go. They just simply can't compete with them. But I do think Mount's number of goal attempts have been going up recently. And of course, he has scored in the last couple of league games. Once again, not for the captaincy, but definitely, a hold for now. Pulisic, it always looks on the verge. Could do well. I think if you're really gutsy, want to go for a differential and you want to bet against, the likes of Vardy and Mane, go for it. It's barrel scraping time. Let's go. Game week 17. I've pulled out a couple of possibles. Now, this is slightly biased because I'm a Brighton fan. It's not a Brighton player, it's Zaha. He's got an annoying habit of turning it up in these derby games. And Brighton and Palace geographically might not be a derby, but it is in emotion and intensity. So this is a big game, and Zaha is the player for that. I think he is a good differential, possibly. And of course, Danny Ings, like Jamie Vardy, he can't stop scoring, and Danny Ings is still up and walking and running. So I'm like, okay, I wouldn't want to bet.
He's not Danny hamstrings anymore.
No, and he's called Southampton against West Ham, who look awful when they were playing Arsenal. That's how bad Arsenal made them look, really bad. So yeah, any else? Any others captaincy shouts at that bottom of the barrel stage?
No, I mean I would have said Ings. His numbers are great. So since game week 7, the only forward who scored more than him is Vardy. He's 8 goals since that time, and doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. His numbers look decent enough, and his fixtures look good. So yeah, Zaha. I know what you're saying about the element of the game, but in his, he scored 2 goals like back to back games with goals in, was it game week like 12 and 13, but then in the games subsequent to that, arguably been favourable fixtures. He had one shot across both of them. So I'm not going to go anywhere near him personally, even for ownership. Some people will give it a go. Palace's fixtures look nice, but and I know derby games are a little bit different, but I'm not seeing enough from Palace's attack just yet. Maybe we'll have to see.
I think you're right. I think there's we've got to that stage. We topped it off with Jamie Vardy. We've been through the list. Of course, Liverpool assets have got to be considered. I think there are some merits in the likes of Rashford, Pulisic, Abraham. There's all those merits there. It's just a question of whether you want to try and compete with the huge effective ownership of Jamie Vardy. It could be a rank killer to go against him. It could be a rank boost if you dare to be different. One of those decisions, but just before we go, David, I just want to mention the members area. Now, a while ago, we launched the monthly membership. So if you don't want to commit to a whole season, you can just dip into those stats, exclusive articles, all the tools and those kinds of things, just for a month and try it out. And that's quite a valuable to see. All of the stats that we've been reading out today are all from there. So we've done that. All we did was go into the members area. It was nothing fancy there. We use the same stats that all the members use there. You can go in yourself. You don't have to listen to us. You can just turn the sound down. You can say the stats as we're talking and showing you the pictures. But for now, David, good luck with your captaincy decision and good luck with your game week.
Cheers. Thank you, and to you as well, Joe.
Cheers.